She was dogging that mama out. I normally do have a lot in common with what they say. Like I resonate with what they say, but it's crazy how to them it makes the book a 1 star, and yet to me it still makes it a 5. It's just not a perfect 5. Hey, welcome back to my channel. We have a little messy video, just a little bit. I'm gonna be reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books. I was debating on making this only because some of these books are my favorites and yet I don't remember anything about them. So we're gonna just see how this goes. So I'm gonna start on my Goodreads and I'm gonna start with my I'm not screen recording. I'm gonna start with one of my favorites shelf. I know the first one that I want to do is Before I Let Go, because I know that one is gonna have some 1 stars. I feel like some of them that are my favorites aren't gonna have tons of 1 stars, or it's not gonna have a review, it's just gonna have a rating. It barely has 1 stars, but let's see what we can find. Okay, so oh, that's a long review. Okay, so someone DNF'd it. DNF at 32%. I don't want to trash this book because it was written by a Black woman. I do the same thing. All I'll say is that this book was not for me. I kept putting it down and not caring to pick it back up. Back to psychological thrillers I go. That's interesting because I did the same thing. When I started Before I Let Go, I read the first 100 pages and I stopped. So if you go to my Goodreads and you look at my reading journey of it, it's gonna have this huge gap from when I started, almost like a month long. Because I don't know, I wasn't into it at first. And I believe it was the first 100 pages. And I just wasn't really into it. And and it's actually my first and so far only Kennedy Ryan book. I was getting so overwhelmed because I'm like, what if I don't like it? I was kind of psyching myself out of it. But let me tell you, once I picked it back up, a month later, I binged the rest of it in the same day. So what, over 200 pages or something? I read it all in the same day. Oh, I'm totally lying to you. Pretty sure well, not DNF, but I had stopped reading also because of the daughter. Here's one. Yeah, I don't think this is for me. Lots of skimming through, repetitive conversations, and boring filler scenes. Daughter is annoying. I got you there. I agree. I'm just not captivated and I don't feel anything. Meh. Listen, that daughter was a hot mess. And I tried not to hate her so bad because she was a teenager. She was like 13. But it's like, my gosh. It was one of those situations where, so if you guys don't know about Before I Let Go, where have you been? It's a divorced couple and they have 2 kids. They have the oldest, I think her name is like Jayla? I don't know, something with a J, I believe. And she's 13 and she has a younger brother. He might be 10. It's not, they have a little gap between them, but not that much. And you can tell that the daughter is like a daddy's girl. And now I don't come from a divorced household. Like my parents have been together my whole life. So I can't relate to that. So I don't want to like say like, oh, she shouldn't be feeling that way because I have no clue how she should be feeling. But it felt like it felt like she did. She took the dad's side, and I mean, she was dogging that mama out. Next, but yeah, the daughter could make I could see anyone DNFing because of the daughter. I don't even know if that just made sense, but okay, I think I'm gonna read one more. I really wanted to like this book, but I could not get past the first 100 pages. I don't know what it is about the first 100 pages because again, I stopped reading literally page 100. I don't know what it was about the first 100, which I think is a fair go at a book. I'll agree. While I love the writing itself, this story just felt stagnant. After the introduction to the primary characters, it's just a reiteration of the same things, just in different locations. I was ready for this something else to happen. I do plan on revisiting Kennedy Ryan's books in the future. I've sampled Longshot and I think I will like it better, but this one is a no-go for me. I can see her saying it was a bit stagnant because that could be, just wasn't a ton going on, but it is a contemporary romance. Personally, I'm not expecting that much in a contemporary, but that's just me. The first book is done. Let's go to instructions for dancing. This was a book that I was so nervous to read, y'all, because I did not think that I was gonna like this book. And it was the first book that I was gifted and also the first book the first giveaway that I won. This was my prize. Love this book so much. It's one of my favorite. What's wrong with my phone? It's one of my favorites. I need to go get my charger from my camera. It's about to go down. Second attempt on writing this. I actually woke up irritated, feeling like my anger to... Okay, that's... Should I even be reading this? That sounds a little personal. See, this is my issue. I think she's talking about the dad in the book, and I don't remember the dad in the book. Okay. So someone says, quit at 15%. I'm over the America's racist and white privilege barb stuck into books. The characters also didn't appeal to me. Moving on to much better reads. I had to get my charger. This example right here is exactly why when it comes to BIPOC books written by BIPOC authors, if I can tell from your profile picture that you are not BIPOC yourself, I will skip your review. I won't be reading unless it's a mutual of mine, because my white mutuals that I have, they're diversifying their reading. Like, I don't have to worry about what I'm reading in their review. Knock on wood, because this is exactly what I'm expecting. Okay, so this is the second one talking about the dad. Writing is great, but the plot surrounding her father and the ending really ruined it for me. I swear to you, I don't remember nothing about the daddy. Let me go grab the book. Okay, I see the word dad right here. Oh, I think the dad did cheat. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think he did cheat on the mom. And you know what? Let me read my review, because I might have said the same thing, y'all. Because I think I do kind of remember something about the dad. So let me read my review. I'm so mad I didn't read this sooner. I will say I'm glad I went into it knowing that it would be more on the emotional side than just a cutesy YA romance. Yes, it does have romance, but I would say it's more of a coming-of-age book, and I don't think I would have loved it as much as I did had I not known this. With that being said, I absolutely love this book. It made me laugh, blush, cry, and of course laugh more. Oh, laugh some more. If you still can't tell by these 4 and 5 star reviews, I would totally recommend it. Okay, so I didn't put nothing about the daddy, but I think I do remember being emotional about reading that part. It's been so long. I read this book, I think, 2021 or 22. DNF at 60%, not because it's a bad book. Wait, she DNF'd it, but she gave it a 3. I'll read it anyway. DNF at 60%, not because it's a bad book. It just reads very young, and it's predictable. I know exactly how it's going to end, so I don't feel the need to read it. Great read for 14 to 18-year-olds. I don't know if I predicted the ending necessarily, because I remember being shocked, honestly, at the ending. So maybe that's just me as I was reading it. I'll read one more because that wasn't a 1 star. She DNF'd, but it wasn't a 1. I'll kind of skim this one because it's long. DNF at page 52. I didn't read the synopsis properly and went into this thinking it would be a cute and fluffy romance. And what did I say in my review? Don't do that! Didn't I say that? Which seemed to be the only type of YA contemporaries that I still enjoy these days. There was also a magical realism element, which I didn't realize at first. It was okay. I have a hard time reading books with magical realism because I don't know, it's weird reading it in books. It's not fantasy, it's magical realism, but it's still like the real world. I don't know. And I can't stand magical realism. I still decided to give this book a chance because after reading the Q&A on Goodreads, I mistakenly believed that there would be a woman love woman romance. This is not. She thought it was sapphic, or they thought it was sapphic. That is definitely a guy on the cover. Yeah, it's not sapphic. Next book. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akweki Emezi. Love this book. This book is not for everybody, by the way. I don't think so. Let's look at the 1 stars. It's a no for me. I found the whole hoe shiznit to be a reach. A broken woman looking to put the pieces of her life together after losing the love of her life. Granted, her selection of men were not that broad, but Faye was still in her 20s, finding out how to make decisions for herself. The best part of the story is her connection with her best friend, Joy. Joy's everything. I did not enjoy much of the relationships, but I did appreciate the process of grieving or trying to. There's no specifics to how one should grieve, and I love that. Yeah, the grieving process in there was written really well. There are a ton of relationships, or maybe not a ton, but a couple of relationships I actually didn't even realize who she was really gonna be with until like we were introduced later to him. I thought it was the first guy that we saw, literally in the first page, but it wasn't him. I think it's his dad. Again, this is another long one. I'm gonna skim it. Our main character, Faye, is defined by 3 things and 3 things only. Her trauma, which is indeed tragic, sex, and her beauty, which is mentioned every single time. My problem is that her characterization doesn't go any further than that. I can empathize with her pain, but I can't connect to her as a character only through that, especially when I don't get to know Jonah, who's only a prop to serve as her tragic background. She makes all of these decisions and she hurts a lot of people. I do remember that, thinking she's allowed because of her trauma. Since the other side of her is sex and we follow the story mainly from the point of view, everyone is introduced as a potential or not sex partner. So this is interesting. She says because Faye seems to think that she can only relate to people that have had the same experiences as her. So the main love interest is allowed to be considered because he also lost someone they loved. Yeah, so this book is kind of forbidden. She gets with one of her, and the guy wasn't even really a boyfriend, but she was someone that, he was someone that she was seeing, and she ends up getting with his dad. She spills her guts, you know, and what she's been through to the dad because she just feels this connection with them. And that part was a little bit off to me because it's like you literally just met him, but I guess she just she felt so comfortable with him because of them experiencing the same thing. So I can definitely understand where the reviewer is coming from, whereas it feels like she didn't really open up to the son because she felt like he wasn't gonna understand what she's been through. Romance is so insta-lovey. Again, I know that. I love insta-love. I just do. So, well, it has to be done right. I couldn't believe how much a particular character was willing to sacrifice for someone they met 2 weeks ago. I don't feel like reading the rest. But what's interesting when reading 1-star reviews, I find that I normally do have a lot in common with what they say. Like I resonate with what they say, but it's crazy how to them it makes the book a 1-star, and yet to me it still makes it a 5. It's just not a perfect 5, or it makes it a 4 or a 3, but not necessarily a 1. I rarely give 1-star reviews. Okay, let's do one more, and I might just do one more book. I didn't think this video would be that long. We will keep this one short and sweet. This person said, I don't think I read the same book that all these 4- and 5-star reviewers read. I get that. That happens to me all the time. Some books, or because again, I don't really give 1 stars, but books that I thought were mid, like they weren't that good. It has like so many good reviews and I'm like, did we read the same book? But yeah, I get that. That happens. Hey, everyone's tastes are different. We're not all gonna like the same book, even if it seems like everybody and their mama liked it. Ooh, Monday's Not Coming. That should be a good one because it's one of those books that I do actually remember the plot and I do remember the book. This book was probably the most traumatizing book I've ever read. I didn't give it less stars because of that though. The biggest problem for me was the way that Jackson presented the chapters. Absolutely. At 100%. I had a very hard time following along. She labels the chapters as things like before, after, and before the before. I may have put that in my review too. She even includes transom months, I don't know what that means, in there. I don't mind time jumps in books as some of my favorites have them, but this book's chapter titles were impossible. I can only assume that the point in time I don't know what this person wrote. I'm not even gonna finish reading it. But yes, y'all, the time jumping, the chapter titles, I was like, what am I reading? Like before the before? Like what do you mean before the before? The after? 2 years before? And then I think there's one 2 years before the before. What was she drinking when she came up with that? It was so confusing, but it's so worth it. Very, very, very dark book. DNF. I don't remember when I started reading this, but I never finished. Claudia made me furious. I get that she and Monday were like best friends, but she literally did nothing without her. And Monday was always making Claudia do stuff that she didn't want to do. Now that Monday is missing, it's like Claudia has no life. Claudia and Monday, I mean, they were like this. They spent so much time together. I 100% agree with her when she's missing her best friend and trying to find her, but she seriously spends every waking moment with her. It's crazy, not gonna lie. Also, Claudia can't spell. She's in 8th grade yet cannot spell. Like, I'm sorry, but usually an 8th... Girl, you can't spell! I'm sorry. It's just probably a typo. But usually an 8th grader knows how to spell Halloween. I only got to page like 50 or 70 until I quit. Every time I read it, I'll be mad by the end or just going to... I don't know what this person wrote. However, if she had, or if they had finished it, I don't know if this is a girl or not. The girl, Claudia is actually dyslexic. I don't know when it tells you that. I don't think it's a spoiler. At first, I didn't even realize that she was dyslexic because it was my first time reading it. If y'all remember that commercial that they used to play on, or advertisement on Disney with Bella Thorne and her dyslexia, and she's like, when I read a menu, it's like the W's or M's or that's exactly how it was written. Now, I don't know, is that actually how someone who's dyslexic is or what? I have no clue. But that's exactly how it was written. Things were misspelled. Different words were used, like this person said and instead of and. She probably would have used a or and. So the spelling was like really off. And at first I'm like, I caught it and I'm like, what? The last one. This is an engrossing story, but I wish the writer had an editor to help rein in the repetition that kept the story from moving along. It was, I do have to agree, it was a bit repetitive with some things. I felt like once I got to about like the 60% mark, I was kind of like, dang, like we've kind of repeated the same thing. Some of the same dialogue has been spoken already. So I could see that. The continuous thoughts about how things would be if Monday were here, or what things will be like when she is back, or what Claudia would do differently if Monday were there. We get it. She misses her friend, and it takes way too long for Claudia to realize that something is seriously wrong. Girl, 100%. But she's a child, so, I mean, what else can she do, you know? I read to the end because I did want to know what happened, but I had to suspend my disbelief far too many times. Listen, the plot twist in here, I was like, what? Again, if you don't really have triggers, or if you know your triggers really well, I would highly recommend it. I forget what they said. Even though some of them did have some points. I think I'm gonna do one more. I don't even know how many books I just did. Okay, let's do Moth to a Flame. I still remember this book. This was a 5-star. This book was terrible. From the child abuse of a 17-year-old, the drug use, the cursing, and horrific events happened non-stop. I hated it. This felt like I was watching a Tubi TV movie or a blockbuster on BET. And I don't think I'm going to put the comment, but someone said, like, what did you think you were going to find in a street novel? And this is urban fiction. It's definitely one, like, if you looked up the definition of, like, a street novel or urban fiction, like, this would be the #1 book that I would show you. It's great, but I do agree it's not for everyone. So if you already don't like lots of cursing, violence in your books, just don't pick it up. It literally said, oh, I have the book too. It literally says at the bottom, a street novel. Again, it's just not for everybody. Okay, so this person says romance trash. I don't believe this is a romance. So first of all, you're wrong right there. This is not a romance. Would I still consider it a romance? Sure. But the like textbook definition or whatever of a romance means that the two characters have to end up together at the end. This is a love story. This is not a romance, which is why it probably says a street novel, or it would be labeled as urban fiction, not an urban romance or a street romance, because it's not. FYI. That was it? Dang, everybody loved this book. Purr. You can tell I've been sitting here for a while because now the sun's going down. Come back tomorrow for part 2 of me reading 5-star reviews of books I hated. Buckle in.